Hi guys, welcome to our channel. My name is Sandy.
And I'm Kayla, and today we're going to dive deep into perspective. How do you feel about that?
I feel good. I feel like this has been a long time coming, so I'm really looking forward to diving deep into this.
All right, so what's our first topic? Nature versus nurture.
Yeah, we can dive into nature versus nurture. I feel like as people, we evolve, and nature versus nurture can have such an impact on our perspective, especially like with childhood. I feel like when we're growing up, we can choose to see things as the cup is half full, the cup is half empty. So it really can shape the complete outlook of our lives. And then we can live our entire lives not even being aware of it.
Right, so explain to me kind of what is nature versus nurture to people who haven't really heard of it or have heard of it and don't really know exactly what that entails.
I feel like how I view nature versus nurture, nature is what our thousands and thousands of years of genetics and evolution has created us into. And then nurture is how you grew up. These are things that impact you even now as an adult, where you carry them with your daily life. You know, the same person who might have been homeless is obviously going to have a very different perspective based off of their nurturing and how they were born into this world, and it's going to be very different from somebody who lived in a very loving household with like two loving parents.
So, do you think that one can change upon what they've been taught? So, let's say, like the person who was raised in a non nurturing environment, or a person that was in a very nurturing environment, are their perspectives able to be influenced and changed? Like, if they have never had nurturing, would they have the opportunity to change their lives through their perspective?
Absolutely. I mean, we are good examples of that, I feel, where, you had to go through such a transformation and then your perspective completely changed.
Right.
So I feel like that is absolutely possible. I mean, even you, our viewer, are taking a right step into shifting your perspective, possibly, opening up your mind to different ideas. And I feel like being open minded can really shift that into maybe something that aligns more with you.
Mhm.
What do you think about that?
I feel like, yeah, perspective, if you're able to persevere and change little things about yourself, the way you think, I feel like it has a profound impact on the way you experience life. I do have a lot of experiences with having to change my perspective in a really huge way. Um,
Mm.
with a lot of like traumatic experiences that have challenged me to either stay in a victim mindset where I
Mhm.
could choose to view the world as a victim, because of things that happened to me that made me a victim at the time, but I had to learn to choose not to be a victim anymore.
Yeah.
And it was hard, but I realized that just by changing my perspective little by little, has made a world of a difference.
Mhm.
I went from very negative ideas of the world, very negative self image, and I can say today that I love myself and I
Yeah.
love the world. So I
Yeah.
feel like perspective and the way you choose to have perspective can impact you so much more than you might realize. And
Mhm.
it seems small because you don't really think about it. You
Yeah.
don't think, okay, when you think of perspective, the grass is always greener is a perspective. You might think that person has a nice car and that
Mhm.
person has this, and you don't have that. But it's how you choose to see it. It's
Yeah,
their
it is.
circumstances.
Like, we eat every morning. We
Mm-hmm.
wake up healthy, able-bodied, and these are things that we naturally as humans like take advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
Where we're like, we take it for granted. But shifting the perspective can be something as simple as being grateful for the meal in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
or even embracing the traumatic things that, happened to
Mm-hmm.
you and shaped who you were and who you are now, and how that kind of opened up. so much opportunity for you to be the
Mm-hmm.
person you are now. And I feel like traumatic things, as horrible as they can be, your perspective on it and understanding that you can't change it once it's already happened,
Mm-hmm.
accepting it and using it like a stepping stone into becoming the person that you were always meant to be. And that's exactly how I feel about all of my traumatic things that have happened to me. I feel like it's not a backpack that I'm carrying around, it's something that I use as a tool to further myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. I very much agree with that. I there was a time where I let everything that happened to me control who I was. Um, my identity, the way I viewed others, my relationships with others, I let everything that happened to me become my identity.
Mm.
It wasn't me versus the problem. It was the problem and me are one. I couldn't
Mm.
separate that.
I feel like when traumatic things happen to us, it opens our minds. Although it's horrible, we can choose to embrace it, learn from it, and use it as an opportunity to shift into maybe the person that we were always meant to be, or accept that, we can't change things. It just happens and we have no control over it, unfortunately.
Mm.
So letting go can also be like a shift in perspective. I feel like I used to hold on to things, and it wasn't giving me any service at all. Holding on to it, holding on to like resentment, holding a grudge. How do you feel about that?
I feel going back to what you said, where you can't control the problem, you can't control what happens to you. You can control how you choose to move on from it,
Mm-hmm.
how you choose to perceive it. Like you said, you can let it define you, you can let it control you, or you can let go, let go of the resentment, let go of the hurt.
Mm.
It's not easy.
It's not
It's
easy.
not easy.
And props to you if you've done this because you know the work.
But once you start doing the work, it it shows. It shows after a while. You might as well do it because you're always going to be in pain otherwise. So even if it's been years and years of trauma, and you're asking me, Kayla, how do I unpack all this? You just start. You just got to start.
Yeah,
There's never going to be a right time, so you might as well do it.
exactly.
So holding on to these things, it doesn't serve you.
Mm-hmm.
It
Not all the
holds
time.
you right.
Yeah.
Or it serves you in a way that you didn't want or didn't expect, or it serves you later along the way.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of trauma that I've gone through that during the
Yeah.
time I felt like this is the most horrible thing
Yeah.
ever. Why is this happening to me? I was very much why? Why me? Why this?
Mm-hmm.
Why not someone else? Why am I going through? It was the victim mindset. I couldn't separate myself from the problem, and I let it consume me. And once you start shifting that perspective of, yeah, this was horrible, I can't change that. I
Mm-hmm.
can't change that it was horrible. I can't change what happened to me. But it doesn't have to keep me there. I don't have to stay a victim.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't. I started thinking, okay, what can I learn from this?
Mm-hmm.
How can I rise above? What can I do to be okay today
Yeah.
and then be better tomorrow?
That's so empowering.
Right. So,
It's kind of taking your power back from
yeah,
something horrible,
absolutely.
and you can look back at it and see in hindsight how it benefited you, or maybe, the silver lining, which, some people see it as like you're just comforting yourself. But what else are you going to do?
Mhm.
You let go, you move forward, and letting go is like empowering. You're taking your energy back and moving forward.
Right. Because why let the things that happen to you or the people that have done things to you, why allow them the energy and the continued power over you? I feel by letting those things tie you down is only allowing the thing that happened to you or the person that happened to you to further keep you in a box when you can be so much more and you have so much more potential
Mm.
if you learn to separate yourself from what has happened.
Yeah.
And it's a broad topic of just talking about trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's talk trauma for a second. Some of our viewers might be like, okay, yeah, but you don't know what I've been through. And
Yeah.
that's true.
We don't.
Everything, we don't. But that doesn't mean you still don't have the opportunity to step into something amazing. If
Mm-hmm.
you just believe in yourself and you give yourself the space and
The
the effort.
grace.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The grace, the effort.
So, what is something that you've experienced which you had to come to a point where you needed a change of perspective or a trauma if you're feeling vulnerable? What is something that you had to go through that you feel has changed you, has empowered you, has left you completely broken? What is your experience?
I will say, now I wouldn't wish this upon anybody ever, but my house was devastatingly affected by Hurricane Helene. I had 3 feet of flooding. I was like, why me? It was our
Mm-hmm.
whole neighborhood. It was absolutely devastating seeing everything that I've worked so hard for just gone in
Mm-hmm.
in a matter of like hours. The next day I was like, wow, I was standing in this living room, like just enjoying like my space, my TV, and everything felt like it was robbed from me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like I said, I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. But in hindsight, I see how much I learned from it, where I gave myself grace. I understood that I do have a wonderful support system, thankfully, my friends, my family, and that showed through this extremely hard time. I feel like my perspective shifted from why me? Why is this happening? I would have never been able to anticipate something like this happening to me. You never think it's going to happen to you, but then it does. I felt was I understood how resilient I could be. I understood that my perspective changed from why me to no, this is an opportunity to rebuild stronger than ever, mentally, physically, emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
So now I feel like I can sit here and talk about it without crying and without feeling hurt because it happened for me. It didn't happen to me. We probably wouldn't be filming this podcast if it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, Realizing how fragile life can be and that we should take an opportunity and chase it and go for it. I would have not gained that perspective if that didn't happen to me, and therefore we wouldn't be doing this podcast. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
it was the little push that we needed, where it was like, you know what, let's just do it. I'm ready.
Right.
So, what's an opportunity that you feel was a perspective shifting moment for you?
A lot. um, I would say my biggest moment of not just a shift in my perspective, but a shift in my reality
Mm,
was going through a really, really traumatic teenage experience, years. um, Growing up with an absent father, having a need of approval from others, no matter what it took. And that led me to make risky choices and risky decisions. And I've been sexually assaulted, and it was a really hard time in my life. And on top of already being a victim of that, I was made fun of it for it in school. And they told me I wanted it. They laughed at me. They said I deserved it. I was asking for it. They said everything, told me
yeah.
off myself. Horrible, horrible things. And I dealt with that for years.
Mm.
Years.
And that's so horrible. Like, I would
It
never
is.
wish that upon
Of
anyone.
course, no, absolutely not. But at that time I stayed a victim. I was a victim, I stayed a victim. I told myself, why me? Why did this happen to me? Why did it happen this way? Like, why didn't they believe me?
Mm,
To a point where even I started thinking I deserved it. I started feeling like, maybe if I didn't dress this way, or maybe if I didn't act this way or seek so much approval, maybe it wouldn't have happened. But
yeah.
it was still very much like it was victim. It was like, this happened to me. Like, this is horrible. Like, why, for years. And that's already on top of other trauma.